What's that, Skip? Shauno's talking about Supercoach again. Let's go. G'day everybody, it's Shauno again, and I'm back with some more Supercoach content. Today we're going to be doing our Round 8 Trades and Captains video, and I think this is kind of an important one where we're right in the middle, well, we're just starting our upgrade season, so it's pretty important that we are trading out the right rookies and getting in the right premiums. Before we go on, please sub to the channel. That helps me out a lot. Really appreciate the support so far this season, so go ahead and sub if you haven't already, and yeah, let me know down there in the chat who are your trades and who are your captains going to be. And last of all, don't forget to like the video if you like the video. And one more thing, don't forget, pop your team in Discord or join my Discord, and then pop your team in where it says post your team here. And tomorrow on Thursday, when we do our live video, we'll throw your team up on the screen and we'll have a chat about it. All right, so let's get into it. As usual, what we do is we start with my team and my trades. Now, I'm still a little bit up in the air about my trades, but at the moment, this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at Whitfield and Horne-Francis in, and Rechenko in, and Farrow, Smith, and Lombard out. Obviously, we're going to go through the trades and captains for you guys, where I'm going to talk about why I made these decisions and why I think these are some of the better players. The other trade I am thinking of is potentially, if English is not named for the Western Bulldogs, maybe getting in Luke Jackson instead of Whitfield. The thing for me is that that would cost me another close to $60,000, which would mean maybe I couldn't do an upgrade next week. With these trades, it leaves me with $34,900 in the bank, which with a bit of trading next week might let me get to another primo. Anyway, let's get on with what is best for you guys. Enough about me and my dumpster fire of a team. Yep, let's get in. So I think this week, I think one of the more important things is maybe we'll look at my team a little bit. Who we're trading out, I think is quite as important this week. It's almost as important as who we're trading in. So I can look at, we can look at, I know you guys can't see, but the most popular trade outs this so far. Number one is Locklear McAndrew. Now, I understand he's kind of done his job. He's got some money. He's got a 73 break even, and he only got a 60 last week. There are rumours from, well, there's no rumours, but there are a few Adelaide supporters out there think that he could potentially be arrested, maybe in the Richmond game, which would be a disappointment. So he's got Port Adelaide and then Richmond. Port Adelaide Sweets doing quite well, so you think that'd be a reasonably even matchup. And then the Richmond, if Richmond still have no ruck, you would think he's got a chance of scoring more there. So I still think he's more one of the more reliable rookies for scoring, except for the 65. Hopefully he doesn't do that again. But yeah, I think he can put out an 80. In that Richmond game, he could potentially even get you 100. He's not going to make too much more money at 363, even if we give him some decent scores. Move this over a little bit so you guys can see. So, you know, even if, say he got an 80 this week and then he got 100 next week with Richmond. After that, he has got North Melbourne with Sherry and then Hawks with the 2 rucks set up. So in a couple of weeks, it doesn't look great. So even if he got an 80 this week and 100 the week after, he would only go up about 12K. So it's not like you're missing out on a lot of money. You just need to make the decision pretty much. Is he one of your more reliable rookies to have on field? Would you prefer to have him than someone else, like if you're forced to have a Philippou or a Grill or a Farrow or someone on the field? So he's the number one trade out for people so far. Jagger Smith. Now, I'm trading out Jagger Smith, so I can kind of understand why people are doing this. He does have a break even of 47. He doesn't seem to have that juicy role that he started off the beginning of the season with. So he's predicted to go at 69, 69, and 69. And if he does that, he'll go up about another 30K. So again, I could totally understand you getting rid of Jagger Smith to get up to another player. 30K isn't a lot in the big scheme of things, so I think that is fine. Tom Lemir's at 281. Some people he is the third one that people are thinking about cashing out. Now, if he plays this week, you probably keep him. He's got a low break even at 28. You probably knock off someone like a Smith or someone with a higher break even. Myself, I got rid of him last week when he was dropped. So if he doesn't play again this week, good sign that he might not be coming back for a while. So I think it's perfectly fine to get rid of him. Then you've got Tanner Bruin. Now, this is one I wanted to talk a little bit to you, crew, about. So Tanner Bruin, fourth highest. Now, I know he's made his money, and he seems like he has a high break even of 90, right? So, and he's up to 400K, and I think we got him at about 280K. So he's been very, very good for us. Started at 276 for those of us that started him. Now, the thing with this 90 break even is that he just scored a 90 last week, but he has a 56. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this number here is a 56. So that score's going to drop out of his three round rolling average this week. So if he gets an 87, let's say he even goes just 80 for the next 2 weeks. And he's showing he can do that. So this week he might go down 4K, but then the week after he starts going, up again by a few thousand. If he can manage to bang out 100, which is wishful thinking, but if he did it, he'd probably go up like 15K, not this week, but the week after. So the thing is, he's not going to go up a lot, but he's not going to drop a lot. So if he's one of your more dependable ones you've got on field, maybe it's worth keeping him for a few more rounds. Better having him on field who can potentially get you a 70 to 100 than one of these other rookies that might get you a 60. Now, if you need that extra bit of money to get up to a full-blown primo or to snipe one of these fallen primos, which was probably what we should be thinking about more at this time of year, I totally understand it, but I think he still is a good on-field option. And I think there are other rookies that probably can go before him. All right, so the next one down, Lockie Jakes. So these two, we'll do both of these guys at once because I have them both in my team. Lockie Jakes and Selwood. Now, a lot of people are getting rid of Selwood because he's got a break even at 15, so that's fine. But Lockie Jakes, a little bit like our friend Tanner Bruin, he has a break even of 52, which seems high with what he's been getting. But again, he's got that low score in his system. He's got a 34 in his system. So that's going to be in there for one more week. So he gets another 65 this week, or 64 according to here. And then a 64 the week after. Well, he starts going up again. So he only needs to score 65 for the next few weeks. And he's showing he can do that. Whether he will or not, it's another story. But he could go up as much as another 40,000 over the next 4 weeks. So even though his break even's quite high, yes, that lower score will drop out of his 3-round rolling average in a couple of rounds. So I think he's one that we can keep. I think he's one that will make some more money for us. Whether he's a dependable on-field option, I prefer not to have him on the field. But I still think there is some money to be made. And I think the same goes with Selwood. He's got a nice low break even. I think there's probably another 40 to 50 grand in there. If he goes at 60s, there's another 40. Let's give him 170 in there. That gives us pretty much another 40,000 as well over the next 3 or 4 weeks. So again, we don't want to fall in love with these rookies, but some of them might have that little bit more money to make, better than others. So I think both of them are. If you need to get rid of them, you can, but I think there's still a little bit more money on the bone for them, and a good spike score by either one of them, a nice 80 plus, will certainly kick up that cash gen for you. All right, so the next one, then we've got Kitty Coleman. Won't go too much into him. He seems break even at 78. Seems like a reasonable option if you're getting rid of him. He's made you a reasonable amount of money. He's got a 56, which is going to be in his system for a couple of weeks. Yeah, they're giving him 90s and 80s predictions here. I think that's kind of wishful thinking, but he did get a couple of hundreds, 68 or 90 or 56. So he's another one that potentially could be better for being on your field. If I'd prefer to probably have a Kitty Coleman on my field than a Lockie Jakes or a Michael Selwood. So I can understand getting rid of him, but I can also understand the thoughts about keeping him. Leo Lombard, here's one that I think is interesting, one that I'm trading out. He has a reasonable low break even, but he hasn't scored very high the entire season. So he's at 210 now. He hasn't really made any cash, but the highest score he's got the entire season is 69. So even in the dreamland, say he gets 2 weeks of his highest score again, he would go up, 30, 40. So they're saying 50 grand, but I think it's a lot more likely that he gets these 45s again. If he gets these 45s that he's been getting, we'll even give him a 50, he's hardly going to go up more than 15,000. So he is a slow burn, but he just might not ever make it. At these current scoring projections, they're projecting he could potentially only get to about 220, 225. Couple of little decent scores, maybe gets to 250. For him to really kick his cash gen into the backside, he's going to have to at least get a 70 or an 80. Say why he gets the 70 this week. Yeah, then you could probably look at 40K over the next few weeks. I just think he's a little bit less likely as that small forward type. He did seem to be playing up the field earlier in the season, but doesn't seem to be doing that anymore. So I think he's just got less chance of getting those scores. And if he does get them, it could be a longer wait than someone like a Selwood or a Jakes. And that's why I'm getting off him this week. And I will have another look at Selwood and Jakes next week. Who else have we got? Sam Grill, I think you can hold Sam Grill. He plays West Coast this week. Could be a potential decent score. He has got a very good role now with Sam Banks being out of the team. So I think Grill, out of all the rookies, he's the one that I chose to keep. Devon Robertson and Colby McKercher are the other big sells, which is fair enough. I understand if you're getting out of Colby McKercher now. All right, so the other one that I'm getting rid of that's not on that list is Farrow. I think Essendon seem to have changed their gameplay again. They're not doing as much kick mark, hence why they got slaughtered last week. We've already had our rant about Essendon, how they destroyed 4 rookies in my team. Yes, Brad Scott destroyed not just 1 rookie, not just 2, not 3, but 4 rookie potential scores, and had an absolute mare of a round when it came to the Anzac Day match. So Jacob, I'm getting rid of him because I think it kind of looks like the role's gone. This 90 and 100 that he had before, well, that was when they were doing this kick mark thing. If they brought that back, could potentially do that again. But if he sits now, he's got 61 and 68. They're giving him an average of 75. Let's say he only goes 65 for the next few weeks. Potentially, he goes up less than 10K in the next 3 or 4 weeks. So that's why I got rid of him. If he holds this current form and they stick to this new plan, or they don't start changing it. Plus, you got Archie Roberts back there sucking up all the ball, and Zach Merritt's gone back there and taking ball as well, which just seems to be taking a little bit of the ball off him. So that's why I kind of prioritized Farrow, Smith, and Lombard. Now, like we said, if a Bruin or a McAndrew gets you up to the player you need, I understand. If I was to go to Luke Jackson, like I suggested, I will need to get rid of McAndrew and pretty much bring Farrow back into the team. So in my brain, I'm thinking, and this is something you might want to think about when you're doing your upgrades this week. is paying up for a player like Luke Jackson the smart idea? You know, if I get Whitfield, he's 60K cheaper, and potentially next week with a downgrade, I might be able to go straight up to one of these fallen primos at about 500K to 510K. If I go Luke Jackson, I'll probably only have 450K, 460K next week with a downgrade, or with two downgrades even. So it might limit me from upgrading each week. Now, is the extra score that Luke Jackson's going to get me over the next 4 to 5 rounds going to help me out? Well, I guess we should probably look at the trade ins now. So that was the trade outs. Let's have a look at the cash cows. So the good old cash cows are this week. We will look, we'll do under 3 games as we normally do. So Reshenko should be probably your number one. He had a decent score, a couple of decent scores, a negative 84 break even. You should be getting him this week. Could be a reliable on-field option, and he's got the Eagles this week as well. So all good things. Very good idea to get him. Now, number 2, Liam Reedy. I am not going to go there, and I'd probably advise the public not to go there unless for one reason. If you want a non-playing loophole from Carlton, and I already checked their games, they do have a few early games, like Thursday, Friday night games, but most of their games are on Saturday and Sunday. So it's not as good as an Eagles or a Melbourne loophole, but it's not too bad. So, but there is a very high likelihood that as soon as Pitnet comes back, Reedy goes out. So yes, he's got this nice big score of like 100 in his system. So if Pitnet is out this week, he could make you some money, but only 1 week's worth of money. So you got a 30, then you got 100, and then if say Pitnet doesn't play any, we'll give him an 80 this week. He plays St Kilda, so the 2-ruck option there, so he might not have the best round. And then after that is Brisbane, but surely Pitner is listed as a test this week, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's back. But if he gets an 80, he makes 50K. But then he's probably going to get dropped. And even if he doesn't get dropped, we've seen he gets a 30. And that seems to be what he gets. When he's the second ruck in the team, he's lucky to score 40 points. So if he got an 80 to 30, he would make you 100 grand. So he would still make you 100,000. But then after that, you're going to have yourself a non-playing rookie, I would assume. Even after this round, I don't think they showed that they haven't played 2 rucks. So they'll probably stick with that. So it is a risk. Now, I understand if you're going there, but I would go in with the knowledge that you're probably going to have a non-playing player in a couple of weeks' time. If not, and if Pitnet's named this week, even if he is still in the team, I probably still wouldn't go there, because we've seen if he gets a 30 and a 30, how much is that going to give you, crew? So if he gets 2 30s, because he can't kick a goal to save his life, so he's got very limited. So he'll get you 70,000. 70,000 is probably not enough to burn a trade this year unless you want a loophole. Now, I've got Duff Tyler in my team, and I did think about it, but I think at the end, when I eventually get rid of Duff Tyler, I'll just go down to a 99K Kalani White and bank that extra money, and that'll just be one trade. I don't want to go to Liam Reedy and then have to go to a Kalani White again to get that money. That would be 2 trades, and I don't want to do 2 trades. So, yep, I don't think that should be an option for many of us. I would be staying away from it personally. Brent Daniels, he's not a rookie, but a lot of people are going there. I think he's going to be another one of these roller coaster men. If you like the ride that Rochelle's giving you, that Connor McDonald's giving you, all those boys, I think you can go there. But for me, it's a no. It's a risky pick. If you're doing it as a risky pick, and you're picking him as basically a keeper. So if your team's a little bit shot like mine is, and you don't think you're going to be able to afford anyone better, then maybe you can go there. But I'm steering away from it myself. He has gone as high as 90s in the past, but that 90 average was skewed by a 190 score that he got. Was it last year or the year before? When he went bananas and scored 1,000,000 goals. So I think I'm staying away from it. Arthur Jones, if he is named, is also option for this week. We'll have to see till the team sheets come out. Again, I think he's got a nice 80 in his score, but before that he's got a 21. So he is a key forward, a small forward, and so they usually don't score too well. So this 80, he'll be in his system for a couple of weeks, but I think at the absolute best, you're probably going to be hoping for 40s and 50s. And don't forget, the Bulldogs aren't the same team as the moment. They have a lot of injuries. They're missing some of their big dogs down at the forward line. Some of those guys like Darcy that might bring the ball to the ground and allow people like Arthur Jones to do their work. So I think, again, Arthur Jones, if he goes at 50s, even with that 80 in his system, he's only just going to make under 100 grand, they say. If he could have a 65, if he goes at 65s, but don't forget, he got that 20. There's nothing saying that he couldn't do that again. And I think that, I'm pretty sure, we can have a look, but I'm pretty sure that was on a full game where he got that 20. That's not what we want. We don't want 40 scores. We want the DFS. Mr. Arthur Jones. He does have a DPP, which is nice. So let's have a look. So he scored a 21. He played 50% TOG. Okay, I'm sorry. And when he scored the 80, he played 50% TOG. So is this a good thing or a bad thing? If he got 3 goals for this 50% TOG. If he played 70 or 80% TOG, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe he could get a few more possessions, get a few more points. Maybe if he had played 70% TOG, he would have got a higher score, like a 40 or a 50, and it'd be a little bit better here. I don't really know if there are any Bulldogs people out there and they could tell me why his time on ground is so low. That would be great. I think if this TOG stays the same, that is definitely not good. But if he could get a little bit more time, maybe with those injuries at the Bulldogs, even though they seem to be mostly tall forwards, he could get a little bit more time, maybe. Maybe is the question. So you guys let me know, why is his time on ground so low? I think he's a risky one, so I'm not too sure if I'm going to go there. I think for me personally, the 1 down, 2 up, and then maybe we've got some decent options next week. In the way of downgrade options next week, we could potentially have Sam Cumming, which we could look at, even though he's at that higher price. And there's also McKenna from Brisbane, this guy, Connor McKenna, who also banged out a 80, I believe, in his first, a 79 in his first game. So we'll see how he goes this week. And the same with Samuel Cumming. I wouldn't be coming early if I was you guys. Standard joke. So I would be waiting for him for another week. Now, Seb, 80, not bad. Just make sure he stays in the team. He's got the Eagles this week, so he could put up another decent score. I'd be definitely waiting, though, on these guys. There's no one else that I'd be really considering of. I'm definitely not Charlie Edwards. This is not somewhere I'd be going, not with the way Adelaide have Saligo. I made some notes here coming back, and I assume that he's just going to take if he doesn't get dropped, he's just going to take any midfield time that he has. So they're the only ones I'm really thinking of this week. I don't think there's much other options for downgrades. Now we can talk about upgrades. I guess Brent Daniels is one of the ones people are looking at in upgrades. Who are people trading in? So, excuse me, itchy nose. Wangan Malira, Petrarca, Jason Horn-Francis, Luke Jackson, Kasai Pickett. I probably wouldn't go Pickett this week. He could potentially be getting the dreaded James Jordan tag. Sherry, I did consider Sherry myself. So let's go to the summaries. So I did consider Sherry myself over Luke Jackson. I thought maybe I'll just pay straight up for him. He has got a very favourable matchup against Geelong. He could go 150. He's got a break even of 190. That would seem like crazy to go in 192, but he could. I don't going to say he's going to get 190, but he could get 150 pretty easily. He did on GWS last week, and Geelong doesn't really have a ruck at all, so he could go big this week. But it's a lot of money to pay. I'm umming and ahhing whether I should be paying up for Luke Jackson, and so. Buying in Sherry at 686 seems like a luxury. We did it with Gawn, and now Gawn's come down. The only one, is he going to be in the top 4 rucks? I think he is. I think the top 4 rucks are pretty much set now. We've seen that it's going to be, as long as Gawn doesn't go with Max Heath too long, that could worry us a little bit. But Sherry, Gawn, Jackson, and Grundy, not in any particular order, but you're thinking probably Grundy has got a bit of a rough run, I think Grundy has in coming up. So hopefully he goes down a little bit. Let's have a look. What would the run be for Grundy? If you haven't got Grundy, he's even more. He's got North. He's got Gawn, and then he's got Sherry. So I wouldn't be going Grundy, and I guess that means That means if you got Sherry in a couple of weeks' time, he's going to get Grundy, which could be a tough matchup. And if you've got Gawn like I do, it could be a kind of a tough matchup this week. After that, Collingwood, Geelong, Richmond, Saints, Port. And then he ends the season with North on the last game. So let's do what we normally do. We normally do each line. So we're talking about the rucks then. So in the rucks, I just think they're a little bit too expensive. And let's take away this. If you're going up to them, you certainly wouldn't be wanting to do it if you got 2 big boy ruckman and McAndrew at flex. I wouldn't be doing it. That flex position is already locked up for you. I would be waiting to after the buys before locking in your 3rd ruck. Even though it looks like we'll probably all want to do that later on in the season, but I don't think this is this time, especially coming into buy rounds. You want to have as much flexibility as possible for getting the players in that you want to get in. So out of all of these guys, Jackson is the cheapest, which is the one I'm looking at. Sean Darcy will be out for apparently 4 to 5 more weeks or 3 to 4 weeks. So he's got some good scores there. If English doesn't play this week, that's a good matchup. Don't forget, if English does come back, he could be a cheap ruck that we're looking at. If you're looking for, bargains and you want to upgrade the rest of your team, which I might think of, he could be as low as, if he comes out, gets 118 or 122, he could be as low as 560k. So he could be almost 100k cheaper than some of the other guys. And at that money could go elsewhere to help upgrade your team. So I'm thinking that maybe, like I said, I was thinking of potentially getting Jackson, but then maybe if I just go upgrade my other players around and we stick with McAndrew for a few weeks, maybe I can pick up a English, and then I will have like Gawn and English, and then I'll have to pick one of the other big boys like a Sherry or a Grundy, whether that means I miss out in the end of the season, not having the 3 best, whether it's Sherry, Grundy, and Gawn, or whoever the 3 best ones are. English, we talk about English, and he did quite well at the beginning of the season. I see no reason why English can't be up there again. I think the value that he will present in a few weeks after he comes back is almost worth, thinking about saving the money if you were going to go to a ruck this week. I do admit, though, seeing McAndrew here getting me 60s to 80s, while everyone else has a Jackson or somebody else getting them 140s and 150s, does hurt. And it does look like the rucks are going to be the most consistent. So I understand if you're going there, but I just have a look at the rest of your team. If you go the ruck this week, can you afford to upgrade next week? Now, if your answer is yes, I can afford to get like a 520k, like someone like a Lockie Ash if you don't have him in the back line. So that's a good segue. Let's go into the defenders. So say you don't want to go the rucks. They're too expensive like me. You're like, who else can I have? Well, Lockie Ash is at 540. And he's got a 146 break even. So not this week, but next week, definitely could be down around the 520 mark and someone to look at. Now for this week, Luke Parker, he seems to still have that role. He's at 565 now. I could totally understand if you're going to go there. I think he's proven that his role is set. Wilkie, I guess Wilkie keeps coming out and delivering. Don't like the fact that Nass spent a little bit more time down back last week. It kind of hurt Sinclair and maybe even hurt Wilkie a little bit as well. And even our mate Carroll, who we sold a long time ago, came out and smacked 100. So not too sure what's going on down there at the back line at St Kilda, but I'd probably skip Wilkie. And Sinclair, well, I think you're going to get him. He's at 170 break even. You can have another look at the role this week and you can see what it's like. Archie Roberts, 580. This is probably the last time you can get him. You don't want to be paying 600k for a defender. Role looks excellent. He's getting big scores. He's an absolute pig of the ball. Does Redmond coming back in a few weeks hurt him at all? I think Redmond is actually going to play in the VFL this week. If we look at the injury list for Essendon, so that means he could potentially be back. Mason Redmond has recovered from a knee issue and will return in the VFL. Okay, so let's say, Brad Scott is the absolute super coach terrorist. So let's see if he gets up to his old tricks. So let's have a look at kick-ins for Essendon. So before Redmond got injured, he took 11 out of 10 in the first week. Roberts took 0, and then he took 1 the next week, and a few others took, and Archie Roberts also took 0. So since he's been gone, that first week Archie Roberts still only took 1, and then he kind of moved to this role, it looks like, where he took 5, 4, 6, and 7. So does Mason Redmond come back and go straight back to taking kick-ins? It'd be an absolute disaster if it was like this round 1 and he came back and he took 11, out of 10, and all of a sudden Archie Roberts is getting 1 or 2. So it's just something to think about at paying that high price for him. I can understand if you want to go there, but do just be aware there is that little bit of a risk. So maybe it would be better to go someone who has a cemented role, like the man below him, like the man that I'm picking, Lockie Whitfield. So Lockie Whitfield's role. We know he's been up and down a little bit this season, but he has been getting the most kick-ins out of GWS. And the last 4 weeks, he's gone 100. No really big hundreds. Having Fonte there and Ash doing quite well has kind of seems to have knocked a bit on his ceiling at the moment. But if we looked at the kick-ins for those guys, he is still the predominant man. Last week, he took 9. Lockie Ash took 4. The week before, he took 3. There wasn't many going the week before. So he's still the main man when it comes to kick-ins. He's pretty much taken the most kick-ins every single week. Well, he has. So Lockie Ash usually takes a few, but Whitfield takes the most. So that means he's got a high floor most of the time, because that's just like, as long as the other team kicks a few points, he's going to get a few guaranteed points, which is why I'm picking him. And it also means if he has a really good game, Lockie Ash seems to be the one they like in the ball in his hands to move it up the field. But if they have a chip mark game where they chip it around and move it around the back line a lot, which doesn't seem to be the thing as much this year from most teams, But if they do that, he could still have one of those big spike scores. So I really like Lockie Whitfield, and he is going up this week as a price. He's got a 96 break even, so he's not going to go up a crazy amount. But if he could come out and get like a 110, he's probably going to go, or 115, he's probably going to go up about 10K. So that's why I'm getting on him this week. Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira has a high break even this week. You can afford to wait one more week if you want. He did play West Coast last week, who didn't think about tagging him. Whereas as a West Coast supporter, I don't understand why you wouldn't tag him, as you see what it does to St Kilda when you do. Instead, we just allowed ourselves to get flogged by 100 points. Anyway, so I can understand going to Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira, but I'd probably have one more look at him myself, see if he comes down a little bit. If you could get him below 550, I think that's an absolute bargain. Like his mate below him, Lockie Ash, one more week could get him another 10 or 20K cheaper. He's someone that I'm looking at next week. As a Jock Dacos owner, I wouldn't be going there. He just doesn't seem to be delivering what we wanted. I bought in Jordan Clark last week, so sorry for everyone for making him score the 78 by getting him into Shauno's team. Hopefully he'll bounce back this week. He actually went up in money with that stupid score, but he has got a break even of 94 this week. So you can afford to sleep on him for another week if you haven't already got him, and just see if you wish to get on that roller coaster. Josh Worrell, I'd be staying away from this. Hinge isn't too far away. Don't know what effect it's going to have on him. If you bought him at the beginning of the season, that's great. You know, he's done you well. Keep him. Don't trade him out or anything. But buying into him now at 480, I probably wouldn't advise it. I think I'd much prefer you pay that little bit extra and get the Ash or the Whitfield of the world. Now, Tom Stewart had a bad game, but now has come back with 100. We talked about Max Holmes going back there and maybe affected his scoring and stuff, but he's very cheap at 450. If you need a cheap guy who can go hundreds and you're willing to take the risk of that roller still there for him, I think you can go there. It is a risk though. Like I said, it is more risky than some of these other, decent, than the Parker, than even the Sinclair, as I would say, or the Wanganeen-Malira. He's probably more of a risk, but he is very cheap. So if you're struggling for money like me and you need to get a cheap player back there, maybe that's the way. What's his break even? 96. So he's probably not going to go up too much. You can afford to have one more look at him. Even if he gets a 110, 120, he's probably not going to go more than 460, 470. If he comes there, gets another 110, maybe Holmes gets moved back to the midfield or something like that, then maybe we can jump on. Wayne Miller, we're probably not going to go there now. If you had him at the beginning and you kept him, you would have been happy with his scores. He is a little bit up and down, but I think we stay away from there. Caleb Daniels, a no. Nick Blakey, if you got on him last week, you'd be a bit disappointed. He has a break even at 115. You can have another look at him this week. He could be cheap. He's not getting away from us too far. Please don't go and buy Houston. I got him last week. I got him a few weeks ago. He's been terrible since I've had him. It's glad that he actually cracked 100. Hopefully he can keep this up, but I certainly wouldn't be buying into it. Now, I don't think there's too many others that people are out there considering. If there are in the defenders, please let me know down in the chat. All right, let's have a look at midfielders. Now, I'd say the midfielders, I'm thinking of more like a next week. If I'm picking up somebody, I'm probably grabbing one of those defenders or maybe a forward this week. A lot of our forward lines look a little bit shaky. And so I think the forward discussion could be a very interesting one. But midfielders, I don't think we should be paying 670 you should have Butters and Shees or Bont. If you don't have Bont, this could be the time to get on him. 160 break even, maybe wait one more week and get him just below 600k. But if you did jump on him at 600k this week, he does have a good record against Freo. If he did get a 135, you're only going to get him at, about 7k cheaper anyway. So, if you don't have Bont, this could be the week to go there. Merritt at 600, I think you could have probably missed the boat on this one, except for I saw some sneaky stats saying there is potential Not guaranteed. It's very close. Can go either way of him getting mid-forward status. Now, if Zach Merritt was to become a forward, he would be an absolute must-have for our teams. So just the inkling that might happen, it's enough for me to say that if you were going to pay up for one of these midfielders, he's probably the one that I would pay up for, just because you've got that option of getting him in the forward line, maybe. And if he doesn't get the forward status, he's still a very good midfielder. Max Holmes, same with potential defensive status coming. And I believe that happens at the end of round 11 and before round 12. I think, please correct me if I'm wrong there, but I believe that's where the new DPP action will happen. At 600, we can wait a week if you don't have him and try and get him a little bit cheaper, maybe at 580. I think he is one that I'm definitely considering. He is a bit more than I might have to pay, but I think these guys that have that potential DPP already have DPP are worth a little bit more. They're a little bit more valuable, and I don't mind paying up a little bit more for them. All right, we talked about Luke Parker. LDU's had his first low game for the season. Break even at 142. Again, you can wait a week on him. Lockie Neal, 90. He's been going along nicely. A bit worried about all the Brisbane mids. Don't forget, they've still got McCluggage, who we'll get to in a second, to come back and get more time. And so I wouldn't go there at 560. I think in the mids is where we're going to have to start picking off of these cheaper guys. Clayton Oliver is probably at this reasonable price. He's not going to go up too much. He's not going to go down too much. So he's another one I'm going to have a look at for one more week. And then at this 550 mark next week, I'm going to decide who I want between 450 and 550. And he could be one on my target with a great buy and a great season so far. If we look at his scores, really, I mean, not the Clayton Oliver at all, but we certainly would have been happy if we had bought him in at the beginning with 121, a 69, but 116, 111, 108, 128, and 100. If he's sitting at a D7 or 8 at the end of the season, you would be very, very happy, and any higher than that is an absolute win. Jack Steele, kind of the same, but I don't know if I'm as happy with him going him as I would be with Clayton Oliver, even though his scoring is really good. So I guess maybe if you wanted a little bit of a point of difference, he's still owned under 10% of teams, you could go there. Not one on my radar, but yeah, lowest score of 92, but one high score of 147, but then not too many 120s around there. You probably want your gun midfielders to be scoring 110 to 130 most weeks. Doesn't seem like we got many of those this year, but hopefully we can find some. I'm a Sam Walsh owner. I wouldn't be buying into him, but you can have another look at him another week. He does get a lot of the ball. He just doesn't seem to score super highly with it. So I think there could be better options out there, but he's getting at a reasonable price. So he's only gone up 12K for what we paid for him at the beginning. Or he's actually, overall the season, he's gone down by the looks of things, 8K. So I think as a cheaper option, it could be one. I don't know if I'll be buying into him. Nick Dacos, what's his break even? 124. A bit like the Bont. If you've got everybody else and you don't have Dacos and you want to get Dacos this week, he's one that's probably not going to go down by too much more, so I kind of understand it. So Caleb Sarong at 500K, and he's probably got a massive break even. So 130. If you were willing to take the bet, he's been well down. All the Freos seem to be sharing the ball around a lot more this year, and none of them are having like a standout crazy season. So I'd probably stay away from the Freo mids. But if he was to get down below 500 to like 450, he could be a sneaky one to have a look at. Finn Callahan is one that I think a lot of us could be looking at next week. He's got a massive break even of 189. And he's got 2 60s in a row. You've got the James Jordan and the Finn O'Sullivan tag, I believe. So if he gets 100, let's say he has a good week this week, redeems himself, gets 115 for the owners. he'll be down at about 500k. So at 500k, he's someone I'd seriously consider. He is prone to that tag and doesn't seem to be able to handle it very well, but I think at 500k, it's one that we could probably jump on. A few of these guys are forwards. We'll talk about the forward in the forward section. And then the only other ones I'm really think people are talking about, Ed Richards, I think is someone you can look at. High break even again, probably next week again. Like I said, I think a lot of these mids are next week options. So with considering that a lot of these people are next week's options, maybe the double downgrade if a Arthur Jones was available and a Petrenko was available this week, maybe the double downgrade this week isn't so bad. Prep yourself for a big buying, go on a big shopping spree next week for a couple of these cheap mids or defenders that we're talking about. Josh Dunkley, here we go, 460. There's been a bit of talk about him. That's his first, I think it's only his second score over 100, 101, 104. So doesn't seem to be having the same role or getting that same midfield clock that he was in past seasons. There seems to be the Ashcroft show in there at the moment. But if he could, if he could get you a couple more hundreds in a row, show a bit of consistency, I think he is a proven performer and we could look at him at this very cheap price. I don't think I'll be going there though. And the only other one is the McCluggage that people are looking at. So he's so far down. I think he cost more, which is why he's still in the fives. Can't see him. All right, we'll look him up. We will look him up. 498 he's at now. He's still got a break even of a 163. He's still getting only about 60% time on ground. So they're obviously easing him into it. If he's got a break even, like we said, got a huge break even. So next week predicted, even if he came out and had some more time on ground and got like 100, he would still be around 470. So I think we're just looking for that slight uptake in time on ground. Now, last week, I believe it was slightly more than what it was the week before. And so hopefully we will look for that again this week. Let's have a look. So this week is not the week to get him as we go on time on ground. So he had 66% last week, 67. So he's gone round 5, he had 56, and then he's gone about 67, 66. So we want to probably see that move to like 70, 75 by the end of the season. We want him to be playing 80. But I think if you were to see it move to between 70 to 75 this week, when that moves, that's the time to jump on. So I think that's what we need to be looking for and keeping an eye out there for. We know he can score a very high points per minute. So he doesn't need a ton of time on ground, but he does need more than 65%. So that was the midfielders. I think there's a lot of bargains there. I think we're going to have a lot of choices next week on who we want. Good time to get some money in that piggy bank. Not that there won't be money for the weeks after. Oh, there's also one other one. Jordan Dawson, I think is reasonable as well. He's at 548. He's got 109 break even, so he's not going to get away from you. And I think at that 550, whether you get him this week or next week, like we said, he's not going to go up or down too much. So have another look at him. He had a very good round last week at a 138, his highest score of the season. So if he was to have another good round this round, I think he could definitely be one in that round, that 550 mark that you could look at as a cheaper primo. Where a lot of people got him a lot cheaper than last year, and he did really well. And I think there is one more that I didn't see. Where's our friend Mr. Matty Rao at 560, break even of 163. Had a disastrous 49, 55, 106, 125, 49. Now, I was one of these guys that got him at 450 last year, and he repaid him the faith. So if he was to get down to 450 again or close to it, like he's kind of predictive. If he gets an 80 or a 72, we probably won't be that interested in. But say he goes 100 and 100, what will that get him down to? He'll be at 500K. So 507K. I think at that price, he's someone that we're going to have to consider for our teams. Is the fact that Petrarca is now there as well hurting him a little bit, and vice versa? Quite possibly. So I think that's also a good segue into the forwards. So this is a line where a lot of people are a bit thin. And I think there's a really defined standout between the top players in this line and then the second and the third levels. Now, I've talked about this a few times. I talked about it in yesterday's video. If you didn't watch my round review video, go back and check that out. And a couple of weeks ago in the live video, we did a really deep dive into the forwards. And this is what I've, through my study, come to conclude, that there are pretty much Sheasel, Pickett, and Petrarca. They're your top three. And then I was thinking that's level one. And I'm going to give a special mention to the guy I'm getting in this week. Potential level one is a Jason Horne-Francis. Now, he's the one I got this week. And if you're going to get a forward, I think he is got the most potential for high scoring. Yes, we know his body's held together with sticky tape. I was one of the people that traded him in and then had to trade him out last year. So, yes, I know we're all a little bit scarred from last year, those of you like me who had to do that, but he does have the role. He has that CBA role, and he can score a 150 on his day. You know, he's already got a 147 this year. Now, he's not going to do that every week. He had a 48, so we'll just ignore that. Since then, he's gone 147, 75, 85, 88, 119, 112. So I think this is the week for the buy because his break even is also quite low. It's at 65. So if you want him, this is the week to get him. And I think he can score the big scores like the Petrarca, the Sheasel, or the Pickett. Is he going to be as consistent as those guys? I think he can be. Whether he will be or not is another thing. Now, I was really hot on Tuke Miller. I was going to get Tuke Miller this week and not Jason Horne-Francis. But after seeing all of them, all the Gold Coast boys in the team, and I had a look at Tuke Miller and his CBAs. So let's have a look at the CBAs. It did drop. And so that drop in CBAs is just enough for me to cool down and to take him from that level 1 down to the level 2. So he'd gone at, not including the first round, 24%, 13%. Then the last 3 rounds, 39, 41, 32. And that's just disappeared to 7% when Petrarca came back. Plus they've got Bailey Humphrey and Will Graham running through there as well. So this is the issue with Gold Coast at the moment. There's a lot of people running through that midfield. And unlike at the beginning of the season, like there was no Matt Rowell, which gave Christian Petrarca, I mean, he actually has having more CBAs the last couple of weeks than he did in those first few weeks where he scored really big. So the good thing about Christian Petrarca is he can score goals. So if you don't have Petrarca, I would say, you know, if you don't have any of those big guys that I mentioned, I mean, we should probably all have Sheasel. But if you don't have Pickett, probably not this week because the James Jordan tag will probably come. But next week, definitely. And Christian Petrarca, what was his break even? 115. I think he's a buy this week if you don't have him. He's still going to be very good, even when we looked at the CBAs there. Like I said, I think those are the top 4 guys. Then Tuke Miller drops down a level to maybe the same as like a Zach Bailey or a Justin McInerney. These guys are guys that are going to... There are issues with their CBAs, and like Zach Bailey, you got to worry about McCluggage getting small CBAs. McInerney, you've got to worry about when Goulden comes back. I know it's a while away, but he's going to get the more CBAs. He is getting quite a lot at the moment, but So I think those guys are good picks, but you just have to understand that their scores are going to be up and down, and you're going to have to be prepared to take that. And then you got some cheaper picks. I mean, Chad Warner, that's his first 100 all year. I think I wouldn't be going there. Rochelle, and then you've got this next level down, which was probably going to say the Chad Warner, the Rochelle, the Connor McDonald, the Murphy Reeds, anyone around that price, even the Tim Kelly's people were looking at a few weeks ago. These guys are going to be very inconsistent, and it's very risky picks because their picks depend on CBAs. Now, we also, if you're going to pick one of these guys, I'd probably prefer that you just went straight down to Daniels. I mean, the good thing with Daniels is he's 150K cheaper, where Brent Daniels we're talking about here. He's 150K cheaper than these other guys that you're looking at. And if you're like, oh, Rochelle's really cheap, I should get him this week, well, you're taking a risk. I'd prefer you took the risk at the lower amount, and then if it doesn't work out, at least Brent Daniels is going to make you some money. Someone like a Rochelle could potentially lose you money. Now, I have to admit, I'm still pretty angry that Graham Myers was listed at 1 to 3 weeks. If you watch my round videos, I had a massive rant about Chris Scott and not telling us about the injuries. And he was quoted as saying it could be the full season. Well, they were saying that it was like an ACL strain. Could be the full season or could be most of the season. Now it's 1 to 3 weeks. So I'm not going to harp on that about that very long, but Chris Scott and Mel and Geelong and the doctors down there, you guys suck. I probably would have traded him anyway, but yeah, just, disgusting performances by those guys and hiding every time there's an injury. I don't think there's too many others I would be considering in the forward line crew. Like I say, if I was you guys, I'd be trying to get in those top 4 guys, the Sheasel, the Pickett, Petrarca, Horn-Francis, and then fill your other 2 spots with some of those other guys, one like a Bailey and a Toot Miller. And I would think it might even be a good idea to do what I've done here. So that is pretty much all the lows. But see, I mean, I don't like to call Houston a primo, but we'll pretend like he is for the moment. This spot here is vacant just in case something like a Holmes comes up. And so I won't be filling up this spot. Oh, there's one more man in defense that I didn't mention. Zorko is going to be very cheap. I don't think I mentioned Zorko in a couple of weeks. If Zorko is like 470, 480, I might just have to get him. And whether that's a Houston to Zorko or like a Backman to Zorko, and then if I get Holmes later on in the season, maybe that means Houston disappears if he continues this up and down form. But so there's one spot there, and in the same my forward line, I've now got one rookie on the field. Allows me to field a decent rookie if one comes along, which I think Todd Marshall, if he would stop being sick or getting dropped or not playing every second week, that would be nice. Also, don't forget, Murdoch is a good chance will get a DPP, so he can always hold that position if he is still scoring well at that time of the year when that happens. So that would be 3 rounds time, I believe, around 8, 9, 10, 4 rounds time. But also, imagine if a Zach Merritt got the forward line. I don't want to block up all my forward positions with the potential of one of these really guys that you're going to have. Now, admittingly, it could be something like a Flanders to a Merritt. You might have to do that to get the money. So anyway, I think they're the good trade ins and trade outs. Don't forget to let me know in the comments who are you trading in and who are you trading out. Now, captains, I think this is one of the hardest captains weeks I've seen, and I'm a bit iffy with my team. As you can see, I've got Dacos into Bont. Unfortunately, a lot of the captains we would like are all playing on Friday night because there's 4 games on Friday night for some stupid reason. So on the Collingwood versus Hawthorn, well, Dacos doesn't have a great record. He doesn't have a great record against Collingwood. Against Hawthorn. He's only got 99, 160, and 102. Could he be tagged by Nash or the other guy, Finn. Is it another Finn in there? Finn McGuinness. It does the tagging. Is that correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. I often am. But because the way the teams are set up and what options we have, I think I might have a go there. So you can have a go there, but I don't really like it. Then Bont seems to do very well against Fremantle. Has pass scores of 144 and 162 in the last 2 games. So I think that's fine. And if you also own a Jackson, if English doesn't play, I'm thinking that's a very good pick. That might even be a better pick than the Bont pick. I think you'd have to have a very hard think about which one of those two you want to be your vice captain. Now, if you have, don't forget to check if you have a loophole or not. I have to still have Devon Robertson, so they doesn't play to later on, so I can still loop my captain or vice captain options. Yeah, but keep an eye on that. If you've got someone like a Watkins, he plays on Friday and he's your only one that's off, then you're gonna almost have to go Dacos as your vice captain into a captain. Now, other choices, if you're like me, you've got another option a little bit further down. Maybe you've got the Kalani White. So the next game is Adelaide and Port at the showdown. I think Butters is a very good captain choice as well. A vice captain, but sorry, he is also playing on Friday. So we'd love to go like Bont into Butters, but we can't do that because they're both playing on Friday. So out of those 2 choices, I mean, I'd probably just go Bont because it's the Bont. But if you wanted to go a sneaky, a bit of a difference, you could go Butters, who's gone 124, 117, and 124 on his last 3 games against them. So you go down to Saturday, you got Essendon versus Brisbane. I probably wouldn't be picking anyone from this game. West Coast versus Richmond, I wouldn't be picking anyone from this game. Geelong versus North, I guess you could do a Bailey Smith, but probably the big one here is if you've got Sherry, a vice captain Bont into Sherry for captain versus Geelong is a very good way to go. I think this could be a very, very good pick. You'd assume that Sherry is going to annihilate the Geelong ruck line, which is one of the reasons I considered paying up for him this week. I just feel it's going to affect the cadence of my team too much with the upgrade cadence. Otherwise, I would love to have him. So you've got Carlton versus St Kilda. I still think Nass is too up and down, but Carlton don't seem to tag. So maybe, you could have a sneaky go at Nass, but I wouldn't like to have the captaincy straight up on Nass just in case. I'd prefer to have someone a little bit more reliable. Sydney and Melbourne, probably the only ones you would have really considered are Gawn and Grundy. Now, since they're playing each other, I probably wouldn't do it. If Heaney was back, would you go straight on him after coming back from injury? I'd probably give him a week just to make sure they're not doing, managing him all or anything. And then the last game, you've got GWS versus Great Western Sydney. And I have heard some inklings of Petrarca, but as we discussed earlier on with the CBAs, the way they are at Gold Coast, you're not too sure exactly what they're doing yet. So I'd be just a little bit less inclined to pick Petrarca as a captain choice just for the moment. He does, like I said, he does kick goals. It gives him that advantage, but Rao probably takes a few contested possessions away from him, which might just stop him getting that absolute peak score. He might score this 128, but is he still capable of getting the 150, 160 with that full midfield in? I'm not sure, so I'd probably stay away from it. So I think they're all the options that I would be thinking about this week, crew. Thank you for sticking with me with the video. Don't forget to sub if you haven't already. Don't forget to like the video. Both those things help me out a lot. And I would love to hear down below in the comments what your captain and vice captain choices are and what trades you're doing. Also, don't forget to check out my round review video and my rant. Yes, it was a good rant, so make sure you check that one out. And tomorrow live, it will be in the morning for me, probably in the lunchtime for you guys. get your team into Discord in the Post My Team Here section, and we will chuck it up on screen and have a chat about it, and hopefully talk everything Supercoach and have a really good time like we normally do. Anyway, crew, thank you very much, and I will talk to you all again very soon. Take it away, Skip.